A question that changes everything. What if everything you believed about happiness was wrong? What if the things you spent your whole life chasing, success, love, security, were never the answer at all? What if the emptiness you sometimes feel isn't a flaw in your life, but a sign pointing you towards something deeper? William had it all. A successful career, a loving family, financial security. By every measure of society, he had lived a good life. But as he sat alone in his quiet house at 72, surrounded by memories instead of people, a question echoed in his mind. Why do I still feel like something is missing? For decades, he had been too busy to ask himself this. There was always something to do, deadlines, responsibilities, milestones to reach. But now, with no meetings to attend, no children to take care of, no urgent tasks demanding his attention, the silence brought a realization he could no longer ignore. Maybe you've felt it too. Maybe you've spent years building a life, working hard, doing everything you were supposed to do. You've checked off the boxes: career, family, stability. And yet, in the rare moments of stillness, a quiet voice asks, is this all there is? It's a question many people avoid. After all, shouldn't we be grateful for what we have? Shouldn't a comfortable life be enough? But if this question keeps returning, if, despite everything, there's still a feeling that something is missing, then maybe, just maybe, it's worth listening to. What if this very question wasn't a sign that something was wrong with your life, but an invitation? An invitation to look beyond the surface, beyond the endless cycle of wanting and achieving, to something more profound. For thousands of years, Buddhism has explored these questions, not with rigid answers, but with a path, a way to step outside the endless chase for happiness in external things and instead find something far more profound: inner freedom. Because here's the truth most of us don't realize until later in life. Nothing outside of us can bring lasting peace. Not money, not relationships, not even the best moments of our lives. They are all temporary, like waves rising and falling in the ocean. And when we tie our happiness to these fleeting things, we set ourselves up for inevitable disappointment. But what if peace isn't something we find out there? What if it's something we cultivate within? William's story is not unique. It's the story of many people. People who have lived, loved, lost, and are now seeking something deeper. As we walk alongside him, perhaps you'll recognize parts of yourself in his experiences. This is not just about understanding life. It's about changing the way you live it. It's about learning to let go, not in a way that makes life empty, but in a way that makes it lighter. It's about shifting our focus, not toward having more, but toward being more present, more aware, more at peace with life as it is. If you've ever felt like something was missing, if you've ever wondered about the meaning of it all, stay with us. What you're about to hear might change the way you see everything. And if this message resonates with you, consider subscribing to our channel. Join us as we explore the wisdom of Buddhism, not as abstract ideas, but as practical tools to navigate life with more peace, clarity, and compassion. Take a deep breath. Let go of distractions. And let's begin. Chapter 1. Understanding Suffering. The Truth We Try to Avoid. William had always believed that happiness was something to be earned. If he worked hard, provided for his family, and built a successful life, then happiness would naturally follow. And for a long time, it seemed to be true. His career flourished, his children grew up strong and independent, and he shared a beautiful life with his wife, Margaret. They traveled, laughed, and built a home filled with love. But life, as it always does, had other plans. When Margaret passed away unexpectedly, William felt his world collapse. At first, he did what he had always done. He kept himself busy. He distracted himself with house projects, took up new hobbies, and threw himself into social gatherings. But no matter how much he tried to move forward, something inside him felt empty. Nights were the hardest. Sitting alone in the home they had shared for decades, William felt an ache so deep it was almost unbearable. He had everything he needed: a comfortable house, financial security, friends who checked in on him. And yet, none of it filled the void. He had spent a lifetime building a life that was supposed to bring him happiness. So why did it feel like something was missing? Perhaps you felt this way too. Maybe you've lost someone, or maybe life hasn't turned out the way you expected. Maybe you've had moments where, even after achieving your goals, You've thought to yourself, is this all there is? This feeling, the quiet dissatisfaction, the lingering sense that something is always just out of reach, is what Buddhism calls dukkha. What is dukkha? Dukkha is often translated as suffering, but it goes beyond physical pain or emotional heartbreak. It refers to the fundamental dissatisfaction that seems to follow us throughout life. It's that feeling that no matter what we achieve, no matter what we gain, it's never quite enough. Think about it. You land your dream job, but after a few months, the excitement fades and stress takes over. You finally buy the house you always wanted, but soon, you start thinking about the next upgrade. You fall in love, and for a while, everything feels perfect. But then, reality sets in, and conflicts arise that it's not that these things don't bring happiness. They do. But the happiness never lasts as long as we expect it to. There's always something more to chase, something else we think will finally make us feel complete. Buddhism teaches that this cycle of longing and disappointment isn't a mistake. It's part of the human experience. And the more we resist it, the more we suffer. The truth we avoid. Most of us don't like to think about suffering. We avoid it, distract ourselves from it, or convince ourselves that if we just work hard enough, we can escape it. William had done the same thing. When grief knocked on his door, he tried to outrun it. He traveled, filled his calendar with activities, bought things he didn't need, anything to avoid sitting with the pain. But no matter where he went, suffering followed. And this is the hard truth. Suffering isn't something we can outrun. It is woven into the fabric of life itself. Everything in life is temporary. Every success, every pleasure, every relationship, they all change, fade, or eventually come to an end. We suffer not just because we lose things, but because we expect them to last forever. Imagine holding a handful of sand. If you try to grip it tightly, it slips through your fingers. But if you hold it gently, it stays. Our relationship with life is the same. The more we try to control, cling, and hold on to things, the more they slip away. But when we learn to loosen our grip, to accept life as it comes, we begin to find freedom. That the first step to freedom. The Buddha didn't teach about suffering to make us feel hopeless. He taught about it because understanding suffering is the first step to ending it. Most of us believe that suffering is a mistake, something that shouldn't happen. But what if suffering wasn't an enemy? What if, instead of something to avoid, it was something to learn from? Think about the most difficult moments in your life. The losses, the heartbreaks, the disappointments. At the time, they may have felt unbearable. But looking back, weren't they also the moments that shaped you? That taught you resilience, wisdom, and a deeper appreciation for life? Suffering is not a punishment. It is a teacher. William didn't realize it yet, but his suffering was leading him somewhere. The grief, the loneliness, the emptiness, it wasn't meaningless. It was an invitation. An invitation to stop running, to stop searching for happiness in the next thing, and instead, to turn inward, because the peace we seek isn't found in avoiding suffering. It's found in understanding it. Reflecting on your own life. Right now, take a moment. Think about the things in your life that have caused you pain. A relationship that ended, a goal you didn't achieve, a change you weren't prepared for. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me? Ask yourself, what is this teaching me? Suffering, when faced with wisdom, transforms into growth. And this is where William's journey truly begins. Not in escaping suffering, but in understanding it. Because when we stop fighting against life, we begin to see it clearly. And when we see clearly, we take the first step toward true peace. That a journey worth taking. William didn't have all the answers yet, but something inside him shifted. For the first time, instead of pushing his pain away, he sat with it. He allowed himself to feel the weight of his loss, not as something to be fixed, but as something to be understood. And in that stillness, something surprising happened. The pain didn't disappear, but it became lighter. The loneliness didn't vanish, but it became less overwhelming. Because the moment we stop resisting suffering, we realize that we don't have to be trapped by it. This is the beginning of true freedom. And in the next chapter, we'll explore why suffering isn't just something we experience, it's something we create. And once we understand why we suffer, we can finally begin to break free. If this resonates with you, subscribe to our channel and continue this journey with us. You're not alone in this search for meaning. And together, we can explore a path to peace, clarity, and a deeper understanding of life itself. Now, let's continue. Chapter 2. Why are we never satisfied? The root of suffering. William had spent his entire life chasing happiness. He believed, as many of us do, that happiness was something to be achieved, something waiting for him in the next big milestone, the next accomplishment, the next stage of life. When he was young, he thought success would bring him fulfillment. So he worked tirelessly, building a career that earned him respect and financial security. When he got married, he thought family would complete him. And for a while it did. He and Margaret built a beautiful life together, raising children, traveling, and making cherished memories. But as the years went by, something strange kept happening. No matter what he achieved, no matter how much love or success he found, the feeling of deep, lasting satisfaction never stayed. There was always something more to reach for, something just out of grasp. It wasn't until Margaret passed away and his children moved away to start their own families that the question finally became too loud to ignore. Why is happiness always temporary? Why do we always feel like something is missing? The illusion of if only. We've all said it before. If only I had more money, I'd finally feel secure. If only I found the right partner, I'd finally feel complete. If only I got that promotion, I'd finally be happy. And sometimes, when we do get what we want, we do feel happy, at least for a while. But then, inevitably, the feeling fades. A new desire takes its place. The goalposts move. Buddhism calls this cycle tanha, or craving, the endless thirst that keeps us running, always believing that just one more thing will bring us peace. But here's the truth we often don't realize. Happiness based on external conditions will always be fragile. Think about the last time you got something you really wanted. A job, a relationship, a new house, or even a material possession. How long did the excitement last before your mind moved on to the next thing? The problem isn't that we have desires. Desires are natural. The problem is that we attach our sense of fulfillment to them, believing that once we get what we want, we'll finally be content. But the moment we achieve one goal, our mind immediately latches onto another. This is why we are never truly satisfied, because we are always looking outside of ourselves for something that can only be found within. The root of our suffering, attachment. William didn't understand this at first. He thought his suffering came from the loss of his wife and the loneliness that followed. But as time went on, he realized that his suffering didn't come from the loss itself. It came from his attachment to how life should have been. He had built his happiness around things staying the same: his marriage, his family, his career. And when those things changed, as everything in life inevitably does, he felt like his world had collapsed. Buddhism teaches that suffering doesn't come from pain itself, it comes from resistance. The more we cling to something, the more we suffer when it changes. Imagine holding onto a rope that is being pulled away. The tighter you grip, the more it burns your hands. But if you let go, the pain stops. This is what attachment does to us. We hold on to things, believing they define our happiness, and when they slip away, as all things do, we feel lost. But what if, instead of gripping so tightly, we learn to hold life with an open hand? The lie of control. Point one of the greatest illusions we carry is that we can control life. We plan, we set expectations, we try to shape things exactly how we want them to be. But reality rarely follows our plans. William had spent his whole life trying to control his happiness, building a life that seemed secure, predictable, stable. But when Margaret passed away, he realized that no matter how much he tried, he could never truly control what happened. And this realization was painful. But it also planted a seed of wisdom. Maybe the key to happiness isn't in controlling life, but in learning how to move with it. Like a river, life is always flowing, changing, shifting, evolving. When we try to force the water to stop, we suffer. But when we learn to move with the current, we find peace, the freedom of non-attachment. William began to notice something interesting. The more he clung to the idea of how his life should be, the more he suffered. But when he allowed himself to accept life as it was, without expectations, without trying to force things into place, he felt lighter. That he still missed Margaret. He still wished things could have been different. But he also realized that life was still here, still unfolding, still offering him moments of beauty, even in his grief. For the first time, he began to understand what the Buddha meant when he said, "Peace comes not from getting what we want, but from letting go of the need for things to be different." This doesn't mean we shouldn't have dreams or aspirations. It doesn't mean we should stop loving or caring. It means we should learn to appreciate things without fearing their loss. We can love without clinging. We can strive without suffering. We can enjoy the present without fearing the future, and when we do this, we break free from the cycle of dissatisfaction. Reflecting on your own life. Take a moment and ask yourself, what are the things you've been chasing, believing they will finally bring you happiness? What expectations are you holding on to that might be causing you suffering? What would it feel like to loosen your grip and allow life to unfold naturally? Because the truth is, peace isn't found in getting everything we want. It's found in learning to embrace life as it is. A new way forward. William's journey wasn't over, but something inside him had shifted. He no longer saw happiness as something to chase. Instead, he began to see it as something to uncover, something that had been with him all along. Beneath the layers of craving and attachment, for the first time, he felt a different kind of peace. Not the fleeting happiness of getting what he wanted, but the deeper contentment of letting go. And this is where the real journey begins. In the next chapter, we'll explore what happens when we stop chasing happiness and start living in the present moment. Because if we're always waiting for something else to complete us, we'll spend our entire lives waiting. But if we learn to be present, we just might find that what we've been searching for has been here all along. If this message resonates with you, consider subscribing to our channel. Join us as we continue exploring the wisdom of Buddhism, not as abstract philosophy, but as a path to real peace, clarity, and fulfillment. Now, let's continue. Chapter 3. The Path to Freedom. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. William sat on his porch, watching the golden hues of the setting sun stretch across the horizon. The world had not changed, but something inside him had begun to shift. For the first time, he questioned whether the suffering he carried was truly caused by loss, or if it came from something deeper. His refusal to let go. For months, he had resisted. He had held onto his grief, his longing for the past, his belief that happiness was something he had lost along with Margaret. He thought that moving on meant forgetting, and forgetting meant dishonoring the life they had built together. But what if that wasn't true? What if letting go wasn't about erasing the past, but about learning to carry it differently? Many people mistake letting go for giving up. They think it means becoming indifferent, losing interest, or no longer caring. But true letting go is not about detachment from life. It's about detachment from suffering. Imagine you are holding a rope tightly, but at the other end is something being pulled away from you. The more you resist, the more the friction burns your hands. You believe that holding on will bring security, but in reality, it only causes pain. Letting go doesn't mean dropping the rope in despair. It means loosening your grip, allowing what needs to leave, while keeping your heart open for what remains. William had spent years holding on, to memories, to expectations, to the idea that his life should have stayed the way it was. And in doing so, he had unknowingly trapped himself in suffering. But what if freedom didn't come from clinging, but from trusting? At the core of our resistance to letting go is fear. Fear that if we release our grief, we will forget those we loved. Fear that if we stop chasing success, we will become irrelevant. Fear that if we accept change, we will lose control. But here's the truth. Control is an illusion. Life has never been something we could hold still, no matter how much we try. Everything, our relationships, our health, our very existence, is in constant motion. The seasons change. The tides rise and fall. People come and go. We suffer not because life changes, but because we expect it not to. William realized that his pain was not just about missing Margaret. It was about his refusal to accept that life had moved forward. He had been trying to hold on to something that was no longer there, and in doing so, he had missed the beauty of what still remained. But how do we let go of attachment without becoming numb? How do we release our grip on life without giving up on living? Letting go is not a one-time decision. It's a practice, something we do again and again, moment by moment. And it begins with a simple but profound shift in perspective. Instead of resisting change, we learn to move with it. Instead of fearing impermanence, we learn to embrace it. William's journey toward letting go began in small ways. One morning, instead of avoiding Margaret's belongings, he sat with them. He held her favorite scarf in his hands, breathing in the faint scent of her perfume. Instead of feeling the sharp sting of loss, he allowed himself to feel gratitude. She had been here. She had loved him, and that love still lived within him, even if she was no longer physically present. Letting go didn't mean forgetting. It meant allowing love to transform from something external to something internal. For years, William had assumed his happiness depended on external circumstances, his family, his work, his routine. But now, he began to question that assumption. What if happiness wasn't something to be acquired, but something to be uncovered? He stopped expecting life to go back to normal and started appreciating it as it was. The morning light spilling through his window, the laughter of his grandchildren during phone calls, the simple act of sipping tea on his porch, feeling the breeze against his skin. By releasing his expectations, he made space for joy in the present point. One day, while walking by a river near his home, William noticed the way the water moved effortlessly around the rocks. It did not resist. It did not fight to change the course of the landscape. It simply flowed, finding new paths where necessary. He realized that he, too, could live this way. Margaret's passing had changed the landscape of his life, but that didn't mean he had to remain stuck. He could flow forward, not by forgetting, not by forcing, but by trusting that life would continue to unfold, and that there was still beauty ahead. Letting go is not about denying emotions. It's about allowing them to move through us without holding them hostage. It's about grieving fully, then opening ourselves to the next chapter. It's about releasing the belief that happiness is behind us and realizing it can be found in the present moment. And when we do this, something incredible happens. We stop living in fear of loss. We stop defining ourselves by what we no longer have. We discover that peace isn't found in controlling life. It's found in embracing it. Take a moment to ask yourself, what are you holding on to that is causing you suffering? What expectations or past experiences are you clinging to, believing that happiness depends on them? What would happen if you loosened your grip? Not to give up, but to make space for something new. Because the truth is, letting go is not the end of something. It is the beginning of something greater. For the first time in a long time, William felt light. He still loved Margaret. He still missed her, but he no longer carried the weight of longing. He had not given up on life. He had simply learned to live it differently. And in that surrender, he found something he had been searching for all along. Peace. This is the heart of the Buddhist path, not to abandon life, but to live it more fully, to love without clinging, to appreciate without fearing loss, to walk forward without needing certainty. Because when we let go of the need to control, we finally experience life as it is, vast, ever-changing, and full of unexpected beauty. William's journey was far from over. He had learned to let go, but what came next? How do we fully embrace the present moment without being pulled back into regrets of the past or worries about the future? In the next chapter, we will explore the power of mindfulness, the key to living with clarity, presence, and a deep appreciation for the here and now. If this message resonates with you, consider subscribing to our channel. This journey is one we take together, and as we continue forward, may we all learn to let go, not to lose, but to gain something far greater, true inner freedom. Now, let's continue. Chapter 4. The Power of Mindfulness. Living in the present moment. William sat on a park bench, watching the world move around him. Children ran across the grass, laughing freely. A couple strolled hand in hand, whispering to each other. An elderly man sat nearby, tossing crumbs to the birds, smiling as they fluttered around him. For the first time in a long time, William wasn't lost in thoughts about the past or anxieties about the future. He wasn't replaying old memories or worrying about what might come next. He was simply here, in this moment, fully present. And in that stillness, he felt something unexpected, peace. For most of his life, William had lived like many of us do, always moving, always planning, always looking ahead. His mind was constantly occupied with what needed to be done, what could go wrong, what might happen next. Even when he was supposed to be relaxing, his thoughts would drift, pulling him away from the present moment. But now, as he sat there, just breathing, just being, he realized something. Life is only ever happening right now. The past is gone. The future hasn't arrived. And yet, we spend so much of our lives trapped in one or the other, regretting, longing, anticipating, worrying. Meanwhile, the present moment, the only moment we truly have, slips away unnoticed. How many moments had he missed? How many sunsets had gone unwatched? How many conversations half heard? How many simple joys overlooked because his mind was always somewhere else? And so, William decided to do something different. He decided to be present. If you pay attention, you'll notice something interesting about the mind. It rarely stays where it is. When you're eating, you're thinking about your next meal. When you're working, you're thinking about your weekend plans. When you're with friends, you're checking your phone, thinking about messages you need to reply to. It's as if we're never truly here. We're always caught between the past and the future, always searching for the next thing. But what does that cost us? It costs us connection, because we're not fully listening when someone speaks. It costs us joy, because we rush through experiences without truly experiencing them. It costs us peace, because our minds are filled with worries and distractions instead of presence. This is why mindfulness, the practice of being fully aware of the present moment, is so powerful. Buddhism teaches that suffering isn't just caused by what happens to us, but by how we relate to what happens. When we resist the present, when we wish things were different, when we're lost in thought instead of in the moment, we create our own suffering. But when we are mindful, we experience life fully, just as it is. And in that awareness, suffering begins to fade. One day, William tried something different. Instead of rushing through his morning coffee, he decided to drink it mindfully. He held the warm cup in his hands, feeling the heat against his skin. He inhaled deeply, noticing the rich aroma. As he took his first sip, he paid attention, not just to the taste, but to the sensation of the liquid moving across his tongue, down his throat, warming his body. And something incredible happened. For the first time in years, his mind was quiet. No worries, no regrets, no distractions. Just this simple, beautiful moment that he realized that mindfulness wasn't about adding something new to life. It was about fully experiencing what was already there. The sensation of walking barefoot on the grass, the sound of raindrops hitting the window, the warmth of the sun on his face. These were things he had experienced 1,000 times before, but he had never truly been present for them. How many moments like this had he missed? And more importantly, how many could he still choose to be present for? Most of our suffering comes from two places: clinging to the past and fearing the future. William had spent years reliving old memories, wishing things had gone differently. And when he wasn't dwelling on the past, he was worrying about what would come next. But when he practiced mindfulness, something changed. He still missed Margaret, but instead of being consumed by sadness, he cherished the love they had shared. He still had uncertainties about the future, but instead of letting them overwhelm him, he focused on what he could control, this moment, right now. Because the truth is, the past only exists in our minds. It's a story we replay. And the future is just a possibility, a collection of thoughts and projections. The only real moment is this one. And when we fully embrace it, life changes. William didn't become perfectly mindful overnight. It was a practice, one he had to return to again and again. At first, his mind resisted. He would try to focus on his breath, but thoughts would creep in. He would try to listen deeply in conversations, but distractions would pull him away. But the key to mindfulness isn't never getting distracted. It's returning to the present moment every time you notice you've left it. So he practiced. He took mindful walks, paying attention to each step, the feeling of the earth beneath his feet. He ate meals without distractions, truly tasting each bite. He sat in silence for a few minutes each morning, simply breathing, simply being. And slowly, something shifted. The moments that used to pass him by unnoticed became alive. A simple breeze felt like a gift. A conversation felt deeper. Even washing the dishes became an opportunity to be fully present. And with that presence came something unexpected: joy. Not the fleeting joy of getting something new, but the deep, quiet joy of simply existing. One evening, as William sat outside, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. He felt alive, not because everything was perfect, not because life was free of sadness or uncertainty, but because he was truly here for it. For the first time, he understood what the Buddha meant when he said, "Do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future, concentrate the mind on the present moment, because this is life. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, now. Right now, take a deep breath. Feel the air moving in and out of your lungs. Notice where you are. The sounds around you, the sensations in your body. This is mindfulness. This is presence. This is life." Ask yourself, how many moments have I missed because my mind was elsewhere? How often do I truly experience my life, rather than just move through it? What would it feel like to let go of distractions and be fully here? Mindfulness isn't complicated. It's not reserved for monks or spiritual teachers. It's available to all of us in every moment. And when we embrace it, we discover something profound. Life is not something to be chased. It is something to be lived, fully, deeply, and with an open heart. In the next chapter, we'll explore how living with purpose, not through achievements, but through inner peace, can transform our experience of life. If this message resonates with you, consider subscribing to our channel. Join us on this journey toward peace, clarity, and a life fully lived. Now, let's continue. Chapter 5. Living with Purpose, Peace, Wisdom, and Compassion. William had spent much of his life searching for purpose. In his younger years, he believed his purpose was to build a successful career, to provide for his family, to achieve stability. And for a long time, that purpose gave him direction. It gave him something to strive for, something to focus on. But as the years passed and life changed, he began to wonder if purpose was something external at all. After Margaret's passing, after his children moved away, after retirement left him with long stretches of empty time, he was forced to confront a question he had never truly considered. If everything he had once built his life around was gone, then what was his purpose now? What was he living for? It was an unsettling thought, one that many people face as they grow older. Without work, without family to take care of, without responsibilities demanding his attention, what was left? At first, he tried to fill the space with distractions, but they never lasted. The television, the small talk, the busy work, none of it touched the deeper longing inside him. And so, for the first time, he stopped looking outside for answers. He turned inward. Through his journey into Buddhism, he began to understand that purpose was never something to be found in the external world. It was not about status, accomplishments, or even relationships. True purpose, he realized, was about the qualities he cultivated within himself. It was about how he chose to live each moment, how he interacted with the world, how he responded to the ever-changing nature of life. He discovered 3 pillars that gave his life a new sense of meaning: peace, wisdom, and compassion. The first was peace. For years, William had believed peace was something that could only be achieved when everything in life was in order. He thought that once he had security, success, and love, peace would naturally follow. But he now understood that peace was not something that depended on circumstances. It was something that had to be cultivated from within. He had spent too many years waiting for peace to come to him. Now he realized it was something he had to create for himself. He practiced mindfulness, meditation, and acceptance. He learned that true peace was not the absence of struggle, but the ability to remain calm within it. It was not about eliminating pain, but about not being consumed by it. Sitting in silence each morning, focusing on his breath, he found something he had never noticed before. Beneath all the noise of life, beneath all the thoughts and emotions, there was a quiet stillness, a place within himself that had always been there, waiting to be discovered. This stillness, this unwavering presence, was peace. It was not outside of him. It was him. The second pillar was wisdom. In his younger years, William had believed wisdom came with age, that simply living long enough would make a person wise. But now, he saw that wisdom was not just about experience. It was about understanding. It was about seeing life clearly, without the filters of fear, desire, or attachment. That he reflected on how often he had lived on autopilot, reacting out of habit, making choices based on assumptions rather than reality. He had spent years chasing happiness in the future, never realizing that happiness had always been available in the present. He had held on to resentments, believing they protected him, when in truth, they only kept him trapped. Wisdom, he learned, was the ability to see things as they truly were. to understand that everything in life is impermanent, that suffering comes not from change, but from our resistance to it, that nothing external can bring lasting happiness, because happiness is a state of mind, not a destination. With this new clarity, William approached life differently. He listened more. He judged less. He questioned his assumptions and allowed himself to be curious rather than certain. He embraced the reality that he would never have all the answers, and in that acceptance, he found freedom. The third and final pillar was compassion. Of all the lessons William had learned, this was the one that transformed him the most. He had always thought of himself as a kind person, but now he understood that true compassion was deeper than kindness. It was not just about being nice to others. It was about recognizing their struggles as his own. For years, he had carried pain, grief, regret, loneliness. And because of that, he now saw pain in others in a way he never had before. The grocery store clerk who seemed distracted might be dealing with a loss of her own. The impatient driver who cut him off might be overwhelmed with stress. The quiet neighbor who rarely spoke might be experiencing the same loneliness he once felt. Instead of reacting with frustration, he responded with understanding. He saw that everyone was fighting a battle, even if it was invisible. And by meeting others with compassion, he not only lightened their burdens, he lightened his own. Compassion also extended inward. He learned to be gentle with himself, too. Forgive himself for his past mistakes, to treat himself with the same kindness he offered to others. He realized that for years, he had been his own harshest critic, always believing he should have done more, been better. But now, he understood that just like everyone else, he was doing the best he could with the knowledge he had at the time, with peace, wisdom, and compassion as his guiding principles. William no longer questioned his purpose. His purpose was not about achieving something grand. It was not about leaving behind a legacy or being remembered. It was about how he showed up in each moment. It was about the way he treated others, the way he treated himself, the way he moved through life with presence and gratitude. One evening, as he sat on his porch, he thought about Margaret. He thought about their years together, about all the love and laughter they had shared. And instead of feeling the sharp sting of grief, he felt gratitude. He whispered a quiet thank you into the night, not just to her, but to life itself, for all its ups and downs, for all its joys and sorrows. Life had given him exactly what he needed. Not always what he wanted, but always what he needed. And perhaps that was the greatest wisdom of all. As he watched the stars blink into the dark sky, he smiled. He no longer needed to search for meaning, because he had found it, right here, in this very moment. That if you have ever wondered about your own purpose, if you have ever felt lost or uncertain about the path ahead, know this: your purpose is not something waiting for you in the future. It is not something you need to achieve or prove. It is in how you choose to live today, in how you meet the world with presence, understanding, and love. If this journey has resonated with you, I invite you to continue exploring these teachings with us. Subscribe to our channel, share your thoughts in the comments, and let's walk this path together. Because in the end, the purpose of life is not to seek something outside of ourselves. It is to awaken to the peace, wisdom, and compassion that have been within us all along. Now, let's continue. Closing. A gentle invitation to walk this path together. William sat quietly on his porch, watching the last light of day fade into the horizon. The air was still, the world around him calm. He felt no urgency to be anywhere else, no lingering thoughts pulling him into the past or the future. For the first time in his life, he was not searching, not chasing, not longing for something more. He was simply here, fully present, and at peace. For years, he had believed that happiness was something to be earned, something that would arrive once he had accomplished enough, loved enough, done enough. He had spent a lifetime reaching for things outside himself, thinking that meaning was something he had to find. But now, as he sat in stillness, he realized the truth that had always been there. Happiness was never in the future. It was in the way he chose to live today. That he thought about all the moments he had overlooked, all the simple joys that had gone unnoticed because his mind had been elsewhere. The warmth of sunlight on his skin, the sound of laughter drifting through an open window, the comfort of a quiet morning, the rhythm of his own breath. These were the things that had always been present, waiting to be seen, waiting to be appreciated. He had spent so long searching for peace, not realizing that it had been within him all along. Perhaps you, too, have spent much of your life looking ahead, believing that happiness is just beyond the next goal, the next relationship, the next change. Maybe you have carried the weight of regrets, of expectations, of longing for something different. But what if, like William, you stopped searching and instead allowed yourself to be fully present for the life that is unfolding right now? Happiness is not a destination. It is not something we achieve once everything falls into place. It is a way of being, a way of moving through the world with awareness, gratitude, and acceptance. It is found in the small moments, in the space between thoughts, in the quiet knowing that life is enough as it is. If this story has touched something within you, if it has made you pause and reflect, I invite you to share it with someone who may need to hear it. Sometimes, a simple message, a different perspective, can change the way we experience the world. If you wish to continue exploring these teachings, if you are seeking a deeper sense of peace and clarity in your own life, I encourage you to subscribe to our channel. This is a journey we walk together, and I am grateful to have you here. And finally, I would love to hear from you. What moments in your life have brought you the deepest sense of peace? How has your perspective on happiness changed over time? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I look forward to reading your reflections. William took a deep breath, feeling the gentle rise and fall of his chest. He no longer needed to search for meaning. He had found it, not in something distant, but in the simple act of being here. May you, too, find peace in the life you are already living. May you remember that happiness is not waiting for you somewhere in the future. It is here, in this moment, in the way you choose to embrace today.